apparent what the issue with all that is.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in, say, yesteryear, that was so easy for, for football players or, athletes in general, just to be, written that prescription and, pop those things like Skittles, and then you just go on about it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're starting to see more and more that athletes don't want to go that route.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame them in the slightest. We've had a couple of very high-profile examples of those guys from the NFL recently, with Rob Gronkowski being one of them, one of the biggest names in all of pro football, but was a very big man who took a lot of punishment. Well, I mean, I can only imagine someone like him, as well as Andrew Luck, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with either one of these names at all, but one of them was a very highly touted quarterback who, they said was going to be the next biggest thing since John Elway, very, very high potential for what he could have achieved, but went through some major injuries in the early portion of his career and just retired at 29. Whereas, you see guys like Peyton Manning, who played close to 40, you have Drew Brees and Tom Brady, some of the other, the best quarterbacks of this generation playing into their 40s, and this guy called it quits at 29. So I would only imagine that some of what he was going through, or not wanting to get down the path of with that many injuries, was the painkillers. And that was what one of the analysts on one of the sports talk shows had spoken to. He said that, I can't blame this young man if after all the injuries that he's had, and he's already been robbed of the joy of playing the game because it's injury, rehab, play, that whole sort of cycle. How many times did they just try to say, okay, we're going to shoot you up with, with some sort of, cortisone injection or something to that effect, give you this pill to mask it? How long do you want to go through that cycle and more so break your body down? Whereas now there's a lot more alternatives.
In addition to that, when you're taking those painkillers long term, you're also creating toxicity in your liver and your kidneys. And in the long run, that's still going to shorten your athletic performance and your ability to have that stamina and keep going.
Definitely. I've learned a lot in the last just little bit about how heightened liver enzymes decrease your overall output and functionality, and that has a big part of it. I'm assuming. From taking all the painkillers and having to be metabolized and whatnot, I'm sure that probably has an increase in that, along with the trauma that these athletes are routinely facing.
And it's the more you're taking of anything, whether it's painkillers or any other drug, your body has to process all of it. And so, really, my approach is looking at medicine as more like food as medicine. And so you can do that just as easily, I think, than taking painkillers or whatever. I think, a huge problem I'm seeing over time is more and more people coming in with opioids, especially if after surgery. And knowing that that's insanely addictive and seeing the side effects of that, I'm seeing people who get really bad night sweats, although they'll get the shakes trying to get off, or suicidal ideation. And it's really severe. And that worries me, I think there's one thing to take naproxen or Advil or what am I talking about? Why can't I think of it?
Tylenol.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. There's one thing to take that long term, which is going to create more and more cumulative toxicity in your body, but the opioids especially and how addictive they are, it's that can completely ruin your career as an athlete. Even taking that for a month can be addictive. And everybody's different, but that's something that I think alternative medicine can really help with.
No, I think that you are spot on with that. There's been tale and tale over and over of not even just athletes, but just the common person who, you had to get surgery for a broken toe or, something like that because you kicked the coffee table in the middle of the night, and they give you a prescription for some sort of opioid-based drug, and then next thing you know, you're hooked. And that's, that could happen to anybody. So I come from Pueblo, Colorado originally, so there's a huge opioid epidemic down there in general. So all of that, to me, the more that there can be awareness or alternative options from people getting hooked on something of that nature, the better. That's why I love hearing any sort of conversation with anything different than that.
And I think in the same light, especially with athletes, you see a lot of people really hooked on energy drinks and drinking insane amounts of coffee to just stay jacked and keep going. And so also, talking to my clients about what is happening metabolically in their bodies and how you can only do that for so long before you get like total adrenal fatigue and like you start crashing really hard. So really, and then also same with like eating like processed food and takeout, fast food and that kind of stuff, and how that affects your athletic performance too.
Oh yeah, definitely. So you're very much so, like as we've already stated, on the holistic end of things with it. So are you, when you're talking in terms of food as medicine, very much so going the organic route, so you're not having to worry about the potential of like the Roundup sort of pesticide content?
I mean, as much as
or anything
possible.
to that?
It's
Okay.
expensive, but
Right.
the
But
more
you
whole food,
do
the
only
better.
have one body.
Yeah, if you buy something that's pre-made, if it has like 5 or less ingredients,
Right.
if you know the ingredients that are in your food, that's always good, as opposed to how many preservatives and what have you in there.
Exactly.
I think it's good to meet people where they're at. I don't think it's good for anybody to have a drastic change or be like, oh, I've been eating this way my whole life, and then all of a sudden I need to shift into this extremely different diet. I don't think any kind of extreme shift in lifestyle is healthy for anybody. But just kind of seeing where somebody's at.
Making those gradual changes, then I guess.
And what they're willing to change, and even if it's just one food or cutting out cheese or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay.